Ladies and gentlemen, I want to read you this. This is James Comey, July 5th, 2016, statement by FBI Director James B. Comey on the investigation of Secretary Hillary Clinton's use of a personal email system. I should add here that we found no evidence that any additional work-related emails were intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them. Of course they were intentionally deleted. Of course 30,000 emails were deleted to intentionally conceal them. That's absurd. Then he writes, we believe our investigation has been sufficient to give us reasonable confidence there was no intentional misconduct in connection with that sorting effort. Of course there was intentional misconduct. They actually didn't care. President Obama didn't know of Clinton's servers. They were secret servers that had, there was some way that outside networks serviced by Clinton's team, transferred or was able, these networks were able to acquire classified data from secure government networks. Nobody knows how that was able to take place. Nobody knows how that happened. So, of course there was. Then he writes, says there are obvious considerations like the strength of the evidence, especially regarding intent. Reasonable decisions also consider the context of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past. Yeah, well, nobody had private servers that even the president didn't know of. You couldn't even have that if you worked for IBM or Microsoft or any corporate, McDonald's. You couldn't have secret servers funneling the secrets of the corporation, or in this case, the United States government, onto networks and servers outside of where you're working. That you would get terminated immediately in the private sector, and you certainly would in the government as well. But the rule of law doesn't apply to people like Madam Secretary. And I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024. We have to, ladies and gentlemen, relive 2016 for a number of reasons. But here, then he writes, all of the previous cases prosecuted involve some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information. Okay. You don't think setting up servers? So Comey doesn't think actually setting up secret servers is the willful mishandling of classified data, or vast quantities of materials exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct, or indications of disloyalty to the United States. Well, you don't have those 30,000 emails, so you have no clue what Clinton was talking about in the 30,000 emails that were deleted. But anyway, then you have, although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. There goes the rule of law. When you talk about, Trump, he thinks he's above the rule of law. The system, Comey, media, they did not hold Madam Secretary accountable. She was above the rule of law. Hit subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel and H.A. Goodman's other channel. I'm using James Comey's own words. He couldn't find intent with a person who had secret servers for 4 years to hide communication, but he couldn't find intent. And we still don't know who allowed her to have these servers. But he couldn't find intent. Now we get to Trump. And he goes on to talk about how the whole, the planet could have hacked into those servers and they wouldn't have known. And there was top secret and special access program intelligence that Comey doesn't explain how Clinton was able to receive emails from secure government networks onto unencrypted for a short while servers outside of the U.S. government. And she was able to communicate with the president as well. Cheryl Mills stated, and I wrote a Daily Caller article about this, that, the president knows. But hit subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel and H.A. Goodman's other channel. Market's tanking like I said it would. It's going to get very bad, ladies and gentlemen. Very bad, unfortunately. And I predicted all of this in September of 2021. watch the playlist. If you want to support my work, my Patreon is below. And if you want to become a member, please do so. Here's the issue with Trump and indicting Trump. They could very well indict Trump. Now, the reason I say this is because they're on the ropes. They're cornered. It's like a wild animal that's cornered. Democrats run off of media coverage, graft. You could look at Hunter's emails, Tammany Hall, 100 plus years ago, and the foundation, Bill and Hillary's. You can look at their own emails. You could look at their own pay-to-play quid pro quo schemes, 150 suspicious financial transactions with Hunter and James and Joe. How many suspicious financial transactions does Trump have? How about none? How about they would have indicted him the nanosecond, if they could prove it in the court of law? Now, here's the issue. They haven't indicted Trump on anything yet. I think it is possible. I'm not predicting anything. Not a prediction. I did predict the market downturn. I predicted Clinton would lose to Trump. But see, now the system, the entire American political system, is leveled against this man. I think whatever they do will backfire. If they don't indict Trump, he has a path, a direct path to the Oval Office. Because they don't even want mashed potato brains Joe to run again. If they do indict Trump, you'll get half the electorate to vote for an indicted Donald Trump, knowing very well the rule of law was completely ripped apart and made a mockery of by Democrats who covered up Clinton's actual crimes and Hunter's actual crimes, and then said, oh, we got him on classified data. A former president wants a library, so we got boxes and classified data. He'll win the trial. He'll win an acquittal, or he'll win the trial if there's an indictment. But the media coverage, the apoplectic, hysterical, raving, intense media coverage will give Democrats that boost of support that they lack, because we're in a recession now and Biden's policies are horrendous and their foreign policy is a catastrophe. And again, I'm not predicting, I'm not saying, I don't know. I'm saying that it is possible. Don't be surprised. It is possible. I'm not saying categorically they will, but Donald Trump is kryptonite to the American political establishment. They don't want a president who presides over record low unemployment, record low poverty levels. In 2019, according to CNN, St. Louis Fed, you can look at any of the data. We had record low in poverty in 2019 and record high in household median income, and he did it his way, like Frank Sinatra. Engaged in tariffs against China. No Republican or Democrat would do that. They would be too frightened to do that. Tried to secure the border. No Democrat or Republican would do that. Got us out of the Paris Climate Accords. No Democrat or Republican would do that. And focused on energy independence and economic growth. No Democrat and Republican would do that. Maybe a Republican could possibly do that, but then that Republican, never Trump Republican, would be susceptible to Lincoln Project foreign policy. Okay? And so he's against Trump never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, and he's willing to negotiate with leaders that Democrats pretend they dislike. Okay? Bill Clinton met with Putin at his home outside of Moscow. This is during the 20% of U.S. uranium capacity eventually being sold to that country, okay? And then they go after Trump. They accuse Trump of everything they're guilty of, and it's clear projection. So they're trying to get him on statutes that Clinton should have been indicted under. Bernie Sanders would have won. He's a tool of the Democratic Party, but he would have defeated Trump at that point, ladies and gentlemen. I know you might think that's nonsense, but I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, at that time. And I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I support President Trump, but I can tell you something. At that moment in time, Bernie Sanders would have defeated Trump. What they did is they engaged in activity that they're always engaging in. They undermined their own chances. They cheated their own candidate, which is what the DNC email showed. They pushed a candidate that had a million different problems that I said would lose to Trump, and I want a Clinton-Trump 2024. I mean, she's the best thing they have now, so by far. But Bernie Sanders was in 2016. He would have won. They would have got 3 liberal Supreme Court justices. You wouldn't have had the Dobbs decision, and there you go. And then you have Democrats screeching and screaming at the top of their lungs. They did this to themselves. You cheat Bernie Sanders. Don't complain about a generation full of conservative decisions. He would have won at that point, but you actually cheated him and you picked the wrong candidate. Not about meritocracy in these primaries. They don't even have a functioning primary. But anyway, they need to knock Trump out of the next couple of years. Biden's going to get impeached. Republicans are going to have endless investigations of actual crimes. They can indict Trump even though he didn't commit a crime, because he didn't commit a crime with classified data and boxes that he's negotiating with the National Archives, and he states that it was already declassified. But let's just assume that it was classified data. You already have classified and top secret intel on servers, far greater risk to national security than boxes at Mar-a-Lago. You have unencrypted servers at one point for 4 years, secret servers for 4 years, funneling classified data outside the United States government. You worried about boxes? You're a complete imbecile. I mean, are you serious? But they are serious. They don't care. It's called hypocrisy. They call it whataboutism, which is actually used to be called hypocrisy. So when you bring up a far more egregious, far greater threat to national security than Trump's boxes in Mar-a-Lago, they say, oh, whataboutism. Yeah, it's called you are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. President Obama's administration made an absolute mockery of classified data. But anyway, I think that I want my viewers to understand in the next year and a half or so, it could happen. They could indict him on something he didn't do. They set him up and framed him on things he didn't do. They could indict him and try their best to knock him out. It won't work. It wouldn't work. Because people would understand that the rule of law has been twisted by the most raving, ranting, indignant, hysterical, apoplectic, wonderful, highly educated, morally superior Democrats to suit their own political purposes as they pontificate about how nobody's above the law, except Hunter, except Joe, except Hillary, except everybody on their side, where you have emails, money flow, suspicious financial transactions, obvious quid pro quo activity, but Trump had boxes. But Trump's boxes. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. They won't be able to convict him. So a Trump indictment will not lead to a conviction. And it could make him even more popular than he is now. They could actually lose to an indicted Trump in 2024, which would be absolutely hilarious, especially since he didn't commit a crime and they're so desperate to set him up and frame him. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Sorry, can't have Comey saying, you know what, there's potential violations. We couldn't find a reasonable prosecutor. Once Comey manufactured and fabricated and imagined a hypothetical, fictitious prosecutor, the rule of law was, torn to shreds. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.